Hey everybody, this is Cutlex. I am releasing this video now of my round 5 match against Thorn for the standard blind ban tournament. This is a fun one because she's running one of my favorite teams in the game, which is Sidekick. And once again, I am running this pretty bog standard Occult Mass Mystify team. And I was very interested in this match because I'm running into the Monk twins again, almost obviously, because this is going to be Sidekick and they're great in Sidekick. But I'm running into Drake Azul yet again, which has been one of my banes in the last couple tournaments. And I think that this is going to be a slugfest because his mons tend to, or her mons tend to snowball very hard. The sidekick team needs between one half and a full turn just to buff up, and then they're going to wreck you behind a wall of barrier and buffs and combo you to death for like 50 because of sidekick support. So my goal in this match is to kill these mons aggressively and early in order to try to limit the buff stacking that can happen. And I will be aided in this because one of the main identifying characteristics of the sidekick team is that they are deathly allergic to Leaf Slash. There is a ton of earth weakness on this team, and one of the main defenses of the sidekick team is that they have a bunch of evasion. There's the monk line, there's the Vero line, there's Ornithopter, even Zol and my opponent brought Lion. They will get a stack or two of their evasion buff and become very tough to consistently hit. And Fungi doesn't care about that because he's just going to use Leaf Slash, which is going to hit 100% of the time to put more buffs on you. Hopefully poison because Fungi has multi-poison. And negate also, Monk hates that because if you're not dodging, you're not proccing martial prowess. So between Fungi and Troll, I have some really strong earth damage and multi-poison. And that's, I think, going to do some really heavy lifting in this matchup because almost everything on my opponent's team is weak to poison and earth. So I think that this is a match where, in general, I think my opponent has about a 95% chance of banning Nautilid. But here, I think it's about 50-50 whether my opponent is going to want to ban Nautilid or Punji. I mean, there's even, maybe it's like 47-47, and there's like a 5 or 6% chance my opponent might even want to ban Troll. I think banning Troll is probably a bad idea here, but it is, remotely reasonable. I couldn't say which one is the right one because if you ban Fungi, you're going to cut off some of my combo potential and my reach on multi-poison, but then you're going to give me Nautilid, and Nautilid is going to let me stretch my team in ways that are going to be much different to deal with. So with that in mind, I don't think it really changes my plan, which is I need to make sure that this team stays vulnerable. I need to be able to take them out after they get a few buffs, and I need to be able to kill them when my mons get knocked out and I come back in. And in that vein of thought, Drake Azul is the 100% pick here. Sitting next to the monk line, if she decides that she wants to run a DPS Drake Azul, which is fully reasonable, um, if they get a turn, if they get first turn, by the end of first turn, they're going to have 5 Sidekick and 4 Barrier on the entire team. And that will be almost impossible to recover from. So Zool is going to be my pick, and I'm not sure what my opponent's going to do. So we'll go ahead and we'll look at the bans, and my opponent, with very little surprise, has picked to ban Nautilid, is going to deal with the Fungi, hope that I roll low, which if you've watched my last video, you know that it does happen almost comically. But I think this is a fully reasonable take. Nautilid gives me much more consistency. Fungi requires me to RNG. And so I'm going to be rolling into this with a hyper offense Deathblow team. And I'm assuming my opponent is going to have a bunch of Sidekick monsters and probably at least 2 of the non-Earth weak monsters. I'm not sure which ones. So that's going to be my plan rolling into this. We'll see how it goes. So my opponent brought Lion and a bunch of Sidekick monsters. And this doesn't really intimidate me too much. I'm just going to run the standard max combo lineup. I feel like she's not going to run Lion out first because Lion is pretty fragile. But Lion does resist Earth, so I guess leading with it is not a bad move. Unfortunately for my opponent, I got to go first, and it put armor break on Lion, which meant that Fungi was almost no chance that it wasn't going to use Leaf Slash on Lion. And now Lion is all dotted up, and Earthquake, even through resistance, I'm pretty sure is going to kill that Lion because it's got 3 poison and a burn on it. Yeah, no problem. And if you didn't see that, Monk's Martial Prowess procced there on one of those Earthquake misses, giving it Barrier, saving it, and then the Enlightened procced and brought the Barrier over to Vero, almost saving the Vero. So Monk being pretty slippery. But now my opponent brought in the Ascendant and set up for a big Gravity, which annihilated that Mad Eye because it was in bow mode. But my other monsters survived. I think Fungi got a little lucky there, but Troll resists all non-fire damage, so it's not really too surprising to me that Troll lived. But now we have the max, it's not really the max combo team, but we've got the scary team out here. And Fungi, I brought the Earth ult to try to spread the love on all of these debuffs, and we get a nice hit there. A nice 22 combo hit on Fungi, and I'm looking to see now whether I need to use Poison Eater to take out this wolf, because we're sort of in danger mode ourselves here, where if my opponent swings back and wipes me, we're in trouble. But because of the nice combo we got on those early hits, Earthquake's looking like it's going to be a kill here on Wolf. And Wolf gets some really nice dodge luck, but it doesn't save us. Or doesn't save it from the Cauldron boosted poison stacks, and it goes down. And now my opponent is down to 2 monsters, and these monsters are pretty good. Ascendant with a ton of buffs and combo, or a ton of buffs, some charge, and aging is pretty scary, but it's got a bunch of weakness on it. And if I were down to my last line, I'd be more worried, but right now I just want to isolate the Ascendant, so that it's by itself, and my opponent will probably throw in the towel here. Because Ascendant, even all by itself, if we get into Infinity stacks, it can still do some damage. But I've won the War of Attrition here through a little bit of luck, and now my opponent knows that I have Boulder as my ult on Troll, just for this specific scenario. I was testing that damage preview to see if it was accurate, because Troll is my secret weapon to make sure that I can take down one of those Ascendants if it gets set up to a Doom stack and I have to bring Troll in later. But you also got to see there how devastating those massive stack of debuffs are just passively on this team. So now my opponent gets to go first, and I don't send Troll out because I feel like she's going to lead Lion again, and she did. And Lion, even with this single AoE buff here, with Troll taking extra damage, double extra damage from fire, I feel like Lion on turn 1 would kill it. But as you can see here, Lion sort of lines it up, misses some crits, and my Rainbow Blob doesn't even lose its Phoenix Affinity. So now it's our turn. I was really expecting my opponent to kill Mad Eye so I could bring in Fungi, but, you know, it's fine. Mad Eye does a pretty good job there doing 17 combo, and I'm looking here with Mad Eye, or not with Mad Eye, with Rainbow Blob, and you can see already after one attack that Thunderstrike is lethal. And so I'm thinking with it being that lethal, we can roll some slots. And yeah, we get a great roll from Rulu, and we fire off a big Cataclysm. And Vero and Ascendant dodge a bunch of the Cataclysm hits, but even hitting just 1 or 2 times with all those debuffs, they're ticked down into critical condition. Like, Vero and Ascendant are going to die to debuffs if they don't do anything. But my opponent heals up Ascendant, sharing some buffs around because of that Enlightened. But Vero is in a pretty bad state. And my opponent, I think, was trying to decide what to hit with Vero there. And now, here's the Gravity. And that was a pretty fierce Gravity. But because Rainbow Blob didn't lose its Phoenix Affinity, it will take infinite damage, and the burn stack is not enough to defeat the Mage Flask regen, and it sticks around for another turn of fun. So we bring in Fungi. I was thinking maybe I was going to bring in Troll for a boulder on this wolf, but instead we're thinking it's going to be okay, because Fungi is going to get some nice combo, and second attack, Face of Evil, is already lethal on that wolf with Slime Shot. This is sort of leading into what I mean from I wasn't too worried if Fungi had gotten banned, because you can see how much damage Rainbow Blob can do. And when you're doing that much damage, it doesn't really matter if your opponent has 50% dodge, because you're going to kill them hitting them 50% of the time. And so, because of all the debuffs that got spread around, those 2 Mons were already in bad shape, and they just had no chance. Now my opponent is down to Monk and Ornithopter, which is just not going to do the job against a full line with 2 on the bench. You can see, look at how much damage that Rainbow Blob's doing here. Rainbow Blob hit there, I don't know, 3 out of 10 times and did 10,000 damage. And that was going second. So with an Autolid there, Rainbow Blob's going to have even more buffs, less combo, but, you know, anyway, Fungi's also doing some really unholy stuff here. So it's not like my opponent made a bad choice in banning Nautiloid. It's just that Fungi is performing really well for me so far. And sometimes, you know, it's not always going to be that way. And so far in this match, though, when Fungi's been attacking, it's been coming in later after my opponent has a bunch of armor break on their monsters. And, oh, we see here that the single buff goes off with that Enlightened and shared Sidekick. Now this Lion has a ton of buffs, and because of Monk's Combat Guard, every single one of those buffs is contributing to the Lion's toughness. So Lion's probably going to kill something here, and then I'm going to have trouble swinging back. And with the fire and the bleed, it's enough to overpower my turn 1 survival build on Face of Evil, and Rainbow Blob goes down. So now we've got this armor break squad, and we're going to see what we can do here, because Lion resists that Earthquake, but those other 2 monsters are pretty weak to it. We've got some armor break, but it's not on Lion, and I'm trying to decide whether I want to use that Grulu ult on Lion to set it up for a kill. And eventually I decide I'm going to use the armor break ult that I have put on Mad Eye. And we're just going to roll the dice. We're up some games, so we're going to roll some dice and see what happens. And we get a bunch of debuffs on everybody. Once again, we've got 2 burn and a poison on that Lion. And I'm pretty sure that This is going to be lethal. Yeah, you see the debuffs are doing much more extra damage because Mad Eye has a passive that increases debuff damage by 20%, and Grulu has a Cauldron which increases it another 10%. So those burns and poisons are ticking hard. But here we go. We've got this line that's set up with Monk and Vero. Vero, I think, is trying to figure out who he wants to kill. My opponent is probably trying to decide whether they want to take out Grulu, which is dangerous because Fungi's waiting in the wings, or if she wants to kill this troll, which just wrecks everything left on their team. And she picked the troll, which barely missed this kill, but I feel like it was going to be unlikely that she wasn't going to use this gravity anyway, so I don't think that really missed anything. However, the heavy shield on Mad Eye saves it with the tiniest sliver of life remaining. So now we're seeing what we're going to do here, because if I don't kill this wolf, I'm going to lose this game. But we also have Monk here, which is just getting tougher and contributing a lot to the team. So I really need to kill Monk and the wolf. And I was looking on my Mad Lord, and I looked to see my AoE poison was not selected. So we're just going to throw this YOLO out from this Cataclysm that, according to the preview, should not have killed that wolf. But the Cataclysms from Mad Lord are pure diabolical madness. So we get a little lucky there, and we take the wolf out. And I see my opponent has brought in Changeling, and I was trying to figure out why my opponent had brought Changeling in, and we got to see this awesome tech where she counterfeited the Mad Eye ultimate Cataclysm, and with the Changeling having Proliferate and the Death Blow, it's such a good adaptation. It's the coolest thing I think my opponents have done this whole tournament. But because Wolf fell, she didn't have that third monster for combo, and my mons just, they toughed it out. I think that would have been a full wipe if they had another monster for combo. Instead, you know, it was really cool, but going down to 2 mons against this team is pretty rough. They took out one of my monsters, but, you know, what are you going to do? I decided to take out the non-Changeling monster because Ascendant left alone, as I mentioned earlier. Ascendant left alone is real scary when you're down to your last 3 monsters, because Ascendant scales pretty hard after time, and Changeling's not too scary by itself. So we take that one, and I feel really bad because this result, I don't think, is necessarily representative of the quality of the teams and decisions and player capacity that happened here. I think that Sidekick is really strong, and as you could see from these matches, I got a bit lucky. But in general, I'm only about a half a turn ahead of my opponent. And winning the die roll to get to go first in game 1 gave me a huge boost. And that momentum let me make riskier decisions, which kept paying off. So really, this match was a 3-0, but it was, in my mind, it's a lot closer than that. My opponent played pretty well, had some pretty cool adaptations. I was really surprised by several of their moves. The Lion Lead, the sweet counterfeit on the Changeling, and just the Dark Shift on the Wolf. All of these are really cool things that she chose to do, and unfortunately they didn't quite pay off for her in this match. So that takes us to the end of round 5. I enjoyed the Swiss portion of this tournament. All of my opponents have been very cool and fun to play with and to talk to. So thank you, Thorn, for this match. I wish you luck going into the top 8, and maybe not necessarily too much luck because spoilers, we are paired up again in the top eight. So she'll have a chance to get some revenge here with my commentary and some reflection. And I am fully expecting the outcome of that match to not match this one. I think it is going to be a lot closer, but we'll see. Good luck to everyone else that's prepping for the next tournament and for the rest of the top eight. I'll come at you with the next video once we've played our match. Thanks. Cheers.